All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to this session going over, business set asides, hub zones, 8A, woman-owned small business, and economic disadvantaged woman-owned businesses. I'm going to start by going over, what the PTAC is here for. Like I said, welcome to the Small Business Set Aside Hub Zones 8A, woman-owned small business and economically disadvantaged woman-owned small business. I'd like to welcome Steve Barr from the Syracuse Division SBA to help guide us through here. A little bit about the PTAP program, which kind of is the overarching umbrella for PTACs. The DoD Procurement Technical Assistance Program was authorized by Congress in 1985 to provide a free assistance in understanding government contracting and to increase the number of businesses capable of participation in the government marketplace. We help on all levels, military, federal, state, local contracts, and we help all businesses. It's not just small businesses. It could be, large government primes as well. We also help, small government entities, there's SAM renewals and things of that nature. As far as how many PTACs are out there, we've got 96 PTACs nationwide plus territories. We just got back our South Carolina PTAC program. So that's, we've got, all the, US covered. As a whole, we've created or retained 550,000 jobs and helped businesses, win $26 billion in contracts. In New York State, we have quite a few territories. In order to find your PTAC, go to www.aptac-us.org and just put in the state, and it'll actually bring up every contact within the state, and you can narrow down from where you are to where your most local PTAC is. PTAC service overview. Sometimes this can be daunting. The ways that we help, training, workshops, webinars like the one that you're attending right now, G2B matchmakers and networking, and of course, one-on-one counseling. We can help assess business potential to do business with the government. We can assist with federal, state regulations and certifications. For example, SAM.gov, getting your DUNS number, figuring out what your unique entity ID is, things of that nature. Identifying subcontracting opportunities, figure out what primes are out there within your industry and, potentially get you connected with them. Find out, once you found your solicitation or opportunity to bid, how do you prepare for that? And then, technical post-award performance. So to help close the loop. So with WAF, packaging, and labeling, very, very important to understand that. Help clarify technical information, document specifications, standards, and, for example, DD 2345. And guide, government markets, government marketing roadmaps, notice of upcoming opportunities with our bid match service. So I mean, that's just a small bit. PTACs really do a lot, and it's a lot more than I could fit on a slide. But it all depends on your needs. We customize our services to your needs and depending on where you are along the road. So with that being said, Steve, if you want to take over, I'll stop sharing on my end.
All right, give me 1 second, man. Let me pull that up real quick. How does that look? Good.
Yep.
Perfect. Good morning, everybody. Amanda, thank you for allowing me to come here today and do this presentation. My name is Steve Barr with the U.S. Small Business Administration, located here out of Syracuse, New York. We cover 34 county territory throughout central, northern, capital region, Mohawk Valley, southern tier. 2/3 of the state we cover out of our Syracuse district office. We have many programs that the SBA does provide. I work under our government contracting side, so today I'm really just going to focus on that. If you do need any questions or help with any of our other program services, feel free to call our office. We'll be more than happy to help you with that, as well as all of our many partners that were funded or not funded by SBA that we work with on a regular basis. So if anything does come up outside this presentation, you can reach out to me and I can point you in the right direction. Or if I can do it myself, I'll help you guys directly. The first thing businesses always ask and are always questioning is, am I a small business and how do I become certified as a small business? Can the SBA certify me? Well, the first thing is SBA does not have a small business certification. Okay. Go through sam.gov, you'll fill out the proper paperwork, and we'll talk about that towards the end. That's how you become a small business. But what are those requirements? What actually makes you eligible to be a small business? Well, every business will have what is known as a NAICS code, a North American Industrial Classification System. And this system of codes is a 6-digit code that really describes your industry. A lot of times you'll have it on insurance information, different licenses that you may have will identify your industry. And based upon that NAICS code, there'll either be two factors. One factor is the average number of employees, or the other factor will be the average number of revenue. Revenue is based upon a 5-year average now, no longer the 3. And number of employees is based upon a 12-month cycle. And the way it kind of works is, depending on your industry, you'll have either or. Typically, in a construction-based industry, you'll have revenue. In a manufacturing style business, you'll have, it typically based upon a number of employees. And generally, most service industries go by revenue. Basically, you do need to be located in the United States and actually have a primary operations in the United States. You can be foreign owned as long as you contribute to paying taxes in the state. One of the states, you'll have also majority of your revenue and services come from the US based companies. So basically your subcontractors will be US based as well. You can become a small business that way. It's a little bit more complicated, but anybody who is located, operates, incorporated here in the United States and meets the size requirement, you'll be okay to be represented as a small business. So basically I always ask people next is, are you ready? Just because you had the hopes and dreams and you see it out there, what have you done already to put yourself in place to be eligible for government contracts? And we're going to go through all these bullet points throughout the presentation as well. Certifications. That's usually the big question is, I want to be certified because that opens the door. In many cases, yes, it does. And the more certifications you have, the more opportunities you can bid on that are set aside directly for those industries. So if you take that slice of pie on the screen right now, that represents the entire US federal government spending. That's well over $500 billion in annual spending. We break up that pie into different slices for small businesses. So you have a small businesses for women owned, it's 5%. We have a small disadvantaged business, which also includes our 8A certification, which we'll talk about in great detail, it's a 5%. Hubzone, which does not have to do anything with the ownership of the business, it has to do with the location of the company, is a 3% goal. And then we have our service stable veterans, is also a 3% goal. That 23% that goes to small businesses, the last full year of SBA reporting is 2020. That was actually 24.7%. So the federal government as a whole exceeded that number. And it was over $132 billion that was set aside last year and went directly to small businesses. That does not include subcontracts to small businesses. So your very large government prime contractors that do have small business subcontracting plans, that money is not factored into that. Currently, the government does track that. It's not a public database, so we don't release that information. But over the next few years, that program will actually become public. That has been put into law. I don't know the exact timeline. With COVID, a lot of these timelines have changed and been altered. So keep that in mind. When I say set asides, those are reserved for contracts between $10,000 and up to $250,000. So any contract between those two thresholds by law has to go to a small business. Anything above that $250,000, if 2 or more small businesses can compete on it and they can provide a fair and reasonable price, that will also be a small business contract. And we'll talk about that towards the end as well in a little bit more detail for you guys. So the first thing we're going to talk about is the 8A program. Keep in mind, this says business development program, and that's exactly what it is. It is not a government contracting program. The reason why it's looped into the government contracting programs is there is a benefit for you to be 8A certified for government contracting. The primary focus of this program is growth of your business, and it's designed for what we call socially and economically disadvantaged. In a few slides, we'll break that down into great detail. But really, the idea behind this is that we provide a one-on-one assistance for those businesses certified under the 8A program. We also have the ability for sole source and direct government contract awards. And then it's also a limited time period. So you're only in this program for 9 years. Once you graduate from the program, we hopefully put you in a position where you can actually thrive, grow, possibly even mentor other businesses on what you've learned and how you can actually help them grow themselves. And a cyclical process comes into play where we bring more people through, hopefully help them graduate and become successful going on. Is it appropriate for all businesses? No. The key point is you have to be socially and economically disadvantaged. You have to have the ability to have an individual net worth, because that goes back to the economically disadvantage of the owner. And of course, the government needs to buy what you service, because a lot of the stuff that we do is we help you prepare for government contracts. If the government doesn't buy your products or services, this program definitely will not be a strong benefit from the financial aspect of it. You'll still learn quite a bit from the educational training business development side, but the benefit of the contracting stuff would not be appropriate for all businesses. And we do review that as a potential for success. Setting expectations, again, we talked about all this as well. The last bullet point, there is a limited dollar threshold. On an annual basis, you cannot receive more than $22 million in direct 8A sole source awards. And the lifetime of yourself being in the 8A program, you cannot receive more than $100 million. If you exceed those numbers, we do what's called an early graduation, and your 9-year term will not be a full 9-year term. So people ask, should I apply? Well, do you have the capacity, first of all, to perform government contracts? Because the last thing we want to see is you go through this 8A program and not receive any of the strong benefits of, contracting aspect of it. Do you have sufficient cash flow? That's big, because if anyone's done a contract before, local government, state, federal, you have to perform the work first before you get paid. Now, granted, in the federal system, within 90 days of completion, 30 days of completion of your project, you will get paid, or there are late penalty fees, so you can actually make more money on your contract if the government doesn't pay you on time. The federal government does, but do you have enough money to support the contract until the completion? Again, do you have the past performance to do this? Do you have the ability to demonstrate it either in the private sector or other public sectors work as well? And then, are you open to advice? Because like I mentioned, this is a business development program. You'll be working with an individual from the SBA, as well as you'll be working with multiple people throughout our resource network that can help you grow your business as well. So the ability to be open and transparent about what you do is great. So now we're on to that whole requirement of what is socially disadvantaged. As you can see there, next to the number 1 there, those are the main automatic qualifiers for being socially disadvantaged. Typically has to do with the race. So Black Americans, Asian Pacific Americans, Hispanic, Native Americans, as well as subcontinental Asian Americans automatically qualify for socially disadvantaged status. That doesn't mean those are the only individuals that can. That means that you need to either show preponderance of evidence, how you've been negatively impacted of your business by your socially disadvantaged status. Many different ways can come in there. Gender, ethnicity, race are usually the big ones. But again, you do need to document and show and prove how you've been disadvantaged to the SBA, usually in the form of a narrative statement explaining the disadvantage with exact evidence of what has happened and how you've been hindered. So if you do meet the social status, you're also required to meet the economic disadvantage status. So it's an and process, socially and economically disadvantaged. Personal net worth, take your assets minus your liabilities, needs to equal $750,000. Now, keep in mind, there's also other things that we remove from that as well. Any type of ownership that you have in your business, so cash injection into your startup of your company, will be removed. Any type of IRAs you have, any type of long-term savings, stocks, things of that nature are also removed from this. And then you also subtract your primary household as well to get to that $750,000 number. Your 3 years average income needs to be $350,000 or less. That number does increase while you're in the program, so you can pay yourself more. But if you pay yourself prior to the EDWOSB program, an average of $350,000 or more, you would no longer be economically disadvantaged. And then also the fair market value needs to be of your business $4 million or less to meet the requirements of the program. What do we look for when evaluating the 8A program? These 6 criteria. And these 6 criteria are the heart of the 8A program. 2 and 3 kind of go hand in hand, ownership and control of the business. What you see a lot of times is what we want to see is ownership, control, decision-making, short-term, long-term, has to be done by the owner of the 8A business. The big one, 5, is character. We do look at past performance, history, any type of failure to pay contractors or failure to pay the government, past taxes, any type of criminal history is all looked at. Are those guarantee deniers? No, they are not. You can show how either you've overcome these issues or why these issues were there in the past, and you can make the narrative to us. But we do look at character as a huge part to get into the program, as long as throughout the entire 9 years of the program as well. So keep that in mind. Every year you do an annual review. In the annual review, we look at everything to determine that you do still maintain all the requirements of the program. Typically, we like to see you in business for 2 years. The reason why is term we use potential for success. The last thing the SBA and the federal government wants is to put somebody into this 9-year program in order, in 6 months or a couple of years later, have that business go out of business. We want to make sure that the business does have the ability to be in operation prior, has a sustainability aspect of it, and go from there. You don't have to be in business for 2 years. You can apply for the waiver through the application process, as long as you can show those 5 check marks as a way of verifying that even though you are a startup business, you have the performance, the expertise, the capital aspect of it to really not to be, a small business other than or startup other than that start date. So keep that in mind is you can apply for the waiver through the process. You do need to document that how you have that potential for success and everything that goes along with it. So how do you actually apply? First of all, you need to be in SAM.gov. And if you're not in SAM.gov, I strongly recommend call Mana, schedule an appointment, get your DUNS number, get into SAM, get registered. Quick, easy, relatively easy process to go through to get certified. Once you have your SAM.gov approved, you'll have your DUNS number and your cage code. You can apply through SBA's Certify system. And it's very simple, certify.sba.gov. 100% online process. Upload all your documentation to the system, fill out the application right online, and SBA has it. No paperwork, no headaches. It's a very clean process. Typically, right now, we have staff moved around throughout the agency to help with the pandemic issues and COVID-related funding. So we're on a slightly longer timeline for the 8A approval process. We're looking at about a 90-day window right now. Typically, we like to do it between 45 to 60 days to get you your certification status, the yay or nay. But right now, we are slightly off that target. We are slowly getting back to that 45 to 60-day number. But please be patient if you do apply. If it's longer than 3 months, please just give me a call. I could check in on it for you to see where things are and kind of where things stand at that time. And again, this is a federal program, so pretty much everything you want to know about the requirement process, the application process is all posted on our website through Certify. You can see screenshots, you can see everything you probably want to know about the certification prior to applying. The biggest thing is I tell everybody I meet that's interested in the 8A program is before you apply, please reach out to me. I would like to talk to you about your business, where you see it, what are your goals, what does your business plan look like going forward, and kind of give you an idea of where the benefits may be from the 8A program. The last thing I want is somebody to get into the program and not know anything about it ahead of time, other than it's a certification. So I like to sit down with them first and kind of get an idea of what they're looking for out of the program and kind of give them some tips and tricks for the application, but more importantly, I have a better idea is once you do get approved, where you are and where you want to end up being in this program. Helpful to the agency prior, and then obviously once we get you in the program, we can really hit the ball running. We can tailor the training for what you need and really just make sure you maximize that 9-year window. What kind of business development assistance do you get? First of all, you get an orientation. So once our headquarters office approves you, you're not officially into the program yet until your local office gives you the green light that says you're eligible. The orientation process is where we go over all the rules, regulations, the ongoing requirements of the program, benefits to the program, and kind of go over the timelines of everything inside the program for you early on. After that orientation, you are eligible to start receiving contracts and assistance under the 8A program. One of the big ones is the 7J training. 7J is our business development training that is mostly done online now. And it could be one-on-one counseling, but most of the time it's workshops and webinars. And the trainings are all over the place. It could be, updating your business plan, how to write a good business plan. And then it could be also is how to respond to an RFP. What are federal certifications? How do I, leverage my cash flow issues? So it's a lot of different programs that are available for the 7J training. It's open to anybody who's in the 8A program, any women-owned business, anybody who's certified as a Hubzone firm as well, all qualify for 7J training programs. If you want to find out more and what workshops we have going on at any given time, shoot me an email. I'll send you the updated list of trainings with the links for you to go through getting those training requirements in. Marketing will help you develop your capability statement. We'll help you figure out who you may want to send that to through some market research for the 8A program. Things that the PTech do, but we'll do it in a slightly different way, tailored towards the agency directly. One of the great things about marketing is, as a federal agency, the SBA can do what we call a search letter. Basically, this is a formal introduction from the SBA introducing the 8A firm to a government agency. It's a great way to actually foster that early relationships with the agency, be aware of an 8A program's services, because the big thing is the sole source contracts that are available to 8A firms, essentially for service contracts that is up to $4 million of non-compete contract that can be awarded. So you can receive multiple $4 million contracts a day or annually, up to that number cannot exceed that for a sole source. Anything above that number needs to go to competitive bid, but anything lower, great opportunity for businesses to really leverage their skills in a non-compete way. And of course, with all of our SBA programs, we do have a bonding program, surety bonding program. If anybody's familiar with our lending programs, where we basically provide assistance to banks to authorize their programs, we do the same thing with bonding programs. We have bonding companies across the country that can use the SBA program, which provides the bonding company guarantee in case you default or a bond is called upon. The bonding agency is not out that money. SBA provides a backing to it, which allows them to, in theory, provide you with a higher dollar of bonding capabilities. As I mentioned, this is a 9-year program. The first 4 years of the program we call the developmental stage. And the reason why we call it a developmental stage is because it's just that. That's where we're really looking at your business. We're helping you focus on where you want to be. And every year in the program, you are required to do an updated business plan that we talk about and go over and how you can hit your targets to get there. The last 5 years is what we call a transition program. And that transitional program is where we actually do put a limit on the 8A work versus non-8A work you receive. The reason why we do that is because once you hit end of year 9, you are no longer an 8A firm. Those set-asides, those sole source awards go away. So we kind of want to hopefully get you on a pattern where you are receiving other contracts outside the 8A program and really utilize those 8A contracts as early startup and learning experiences. And then as you grow through the program, less and less 8A contracts come aboard. If you say you want to just do all 8A, you could be in the process, the ability to actually graduate early or be terminated from the program for failing to meet the requirements. So we strongly encourage businesses to make sure they have a good competitive advantage of work outside the 8A program as well. Excuse me, and that kind of covers a nutshell. We talked about it for, almost a little over 15 minutes about the 8A program. That is a very brief introduction, believe it or not. It's a very complex program. It does provide a lot of great avenues and resources for businesses. And again, if you are strongly considering the 8A program, give me a call. We'll go over this tailored towards your operation. The next major certification SBA has is our Hubzone certification. And what's great about the Hubzone program is there is no ownership requirement that you have to be part of a designated group. It has to do with the primary location of your business, as well as 35% of your employees must also reside in a Hubzone. About 3 months ago, SBA pushed a new update through the maps that did some sort of economic study based upon COVID and recent trends. And we actually brought in about 400 counties across the United States back to Hubzone areas. The North Country area, quite a few of the counties that MANA covers are actually now full Hubzone counties again for the first time since, well, 10 years. It's been since those have been full counties. And then also at the end of 2023, we had to push back this date. The census data will be compiled and you'll get new mapping systems again. So you'll get another big wave towards the end of 2023 where it's hard to speculate, to be perfectly honest with you. If you go back to when the census was being conducted, we were starting to go through the pandemic. So the economy started to fall, but prior to that, the economy was doing quite well. So it's really hard to speculate that the snapshot of where everything is going to be, to speculate which areas may see an increase in hub zones and which ones may see less hub zone areas. But the great news is once that map is released, that area will be locked for 5 years. So there will be no longer the seasonal annual adjustments to hub zone areas. It will be locked for 5 years. So now a contractor knows they're good for the next 5 years or not. No requirement to be in business. Okay, there's no timeline, I should say. You have to be in business, but no timeline is required. And again, you must maintain that 35% employment status to be eligible for the 8A program throughout its life. While you're working on larger contracts, you need to staff up. That number can drop to 25%, but you do need to have 35% in order to bid on future contracts. Very similar process to the 8A program for certification. You do need to register SAM first. This certification is still done on our legacy system known as the GLS, or General Login System. If you go to sba.gov/Hubzone, it'll take you to a brief overview of the Hubzone program, as well allow you to the link to the General Login System. The biggest problem with this legacy system is its age. Okay, and when I say its age, it's more of it needs to be updated, and it eventually will come over to certify. But right now it cannot, due to the fact that we do require a lot of personal information, and the security level requirements from Congress is vastly higher on this system. In order for us to switch over, we do need to have a lot of different agencies put their input in. So right now it's still in the General Login System. It's great, it's functional. It's honestly one of our smoothest certifications that we have for not having bugs or glitches. The biggest downside is once you start this application, you have to finish it. Okay, there is no saving your work. The application is start to finish. And the reason why, I don't know, it's old. But more importantly, what we need to have done is on our document page, we do list everything you need to have prior to submitting your application. So I strongly recommend that you pull up that documentation, get all the information you need readily digitally made and converted to digital files. Then you can just start uploading everything and making a very smooth process for you. This process, you do get annual updates. So you are required to update your information annually. Every 3 years, you'll have what's known as a desk audit, where we'll actually come in, virtually come in, have you send us updated documents and go from there. The other unique thing about this program as well is random mandatory site visits. So what will happen is the SBA will come in to your firm location, typically unannounced, and we'll basically make sure you're in operation. We'll make sure you have signage on your door. We walk in and you say you have 20 people on staff and they all live in a hub zone. Well, we'll go around and see, are there 20 desks and chairs, or where are they working out of? So we'll basically make sure that and verify what you submitted is correct. This is the SBA's way of doing compliance and making sure there's no fraud in this program. I've personally seen some pretty unique cases where I've gone into places based on the address that's in a hub zone, ask for the company, no one knows who that company is, or I go to a business, see the sign, see the big building, and they don't have anybody working there, or vice versa. So making sure that you do meet the requirements and what you tell the government, where the people are located and who's employed by the company are legitimate, because frauding the federal government is not something fun to deal with at all. So is it scary? No. If you're in my 34 county district, I'll be the one coming to do your site visits. I can tell you that right now. Typically, they're quick, they're easy. I may ask for a tour of your facility. I will ask for a tour of your facility just to make sure that it is an operational business and not somebody else's business that you just say you work and own. We do make sure that it is your company. Again, that program process typically takes about that same window, 90-day window, to get certified under the Hubzone program. Very quick program to get in and get worked through. There is no timeline, as long as you meet the requirements of the program, the location, owner, location status, and number of employees. You can be in it as long as your area you live in is a hub zone. So that's great as well. Excuse me. The last certification we're going to talk about is our Women-Owned Small Business Program and our Economically Disadvantaged Women-Owned Small Business Program. This is a unique program, and what makes it unique is there's the formal SBA certification we're going to talk about today, but I also want to let everybody know there is a self-certification program you can do through sam.gov. The biggest reason why is you can do this is because not every single industry code or NICS code qualifies for the women-owned or economically disadvantaged women-owned. There's only 92 major tracks that qualify for this program, either or, and there's a lot more codes in the federal government. So again, what we do is we look at underserved codes, and I get ahead of myself. That's a whole nother slide. I'll dive into that in just a second here, so I do apologize. Little note to myself that will change this PowerPoint requirements. Biggest thing for this program is one or more women need to own at least 51% ownership control. These individuals need to make short-term, long-term decisions, can fire anybody in the company, as the typically highest paid positions have to be the women-owned owners. If not, a letter explaining why. It could be for sales purposes. It could be for startup purposes, where you may have pay yourself less money because you need the cash injection back into the company to keep employees. There is no minimum time in business, as long as you are in business. But again, having the managerial experience to run the company is highly looked at and required. Sometimes people will give me, well, what's an example of something that would not qualify? If it's a women-owned trucking company, for example, and that women-owned woman has never run a truck or doesn't have a driver's license to drive a truck, that could not have the exact experience in the industry. Now you can say that you may have been a generational thing, that you know how to do all this stuff. That's a different story. But if it is a startup, we do like to see that you have the ability to handle majority of the jobs and operations. In case you lose a key employee, will you lose the business? Ideally, if you are having that experience, you would not. Again, just kind of went over the same slides here, just this is the shape of a cube with, putting different pegs into it. Again, you need to be small. That's the key thing, is all of our federal SBA certifications as a small business administration, you do need to be small to qualify for all of our programs. And again, that goes back to the initial slide. So for the economically disadvantaged side, you are required to have more requirements than what I talked about as well. These are very similar to the same requirements to be economically disadvantaged for the 8A program. The only major difference is you can actually have a larger asset of your business. This is a $6 million less instead of the 4 that you see with the 8A program. But again, same thing that we look at for net worth to be qualified as economically disadvantaged. All those industry codes are located on our website, sba.gov/WOSB. Again, register sam.gov. Big change on this one here. Just to get certified, you need to go to our beta system, beta.certify.sba.gov. Feels like normal certify, except for this is only for women-owned certifications. Over the next few years, it will be migrated over into certify, but today it's a standalone certification in the beta system. Everything is done online, documentations, everything is uploaded. SBA will have, if you have questions or comments or concerns about your business, we'll ask for more information and provide you where you are. This is a newer program, was released, re-released, I should say, a little over a year ago. And what's really unique, unfortunately, with the new system, we do get a massive flood of businesses coming into this program once it was reauthorized. So there is a slightly longer timeline. I honestly do not have a timeline for you. 90 to 120 days is what I have been seeing. That's a little long from what we like to see as a timeline. It is, again, getting better, but nonetheless, expect a little bit longer delay compared to that of the 8A or Hubzone program. So keep it in mind. It may take a little bit longer to get this certification just because of, again, new program. Again, millions of businesses qualify. We get a flood of businesses in on a regular basis for this program. And it does create a small backlog. But again, typically within that 3 to 4 month timeline, you will have a decision made. Again, WOSB is for the substantially underutilized industries. So what has been done is the federal government, Congress, has done a review of women-owned businesses and, quite frankly, which industry codes they get contracts from. Those that are underrepresented, underrepresented, where you typically will have less industries used, we created the economically disadvantaged side, and those that are substantially underutilized and very underrepresented, we created the women-owned small business. These certifications are designed to hopefully funnel contracts and opportunities to those that are underrepresented, and again, bring those up to a fair, reasonable, competitive offer for total spending under those codes. Again, the rule of 2 needs to come into play, as it does for all federal contracts. You need to have at least 2 qualified businesses that are reasonable and have a fair offer price. So if you know your competitors, you guys cannot collude with each other and create a price gouging scheme. One, the government will know, you get an idea of that because we do government estimates on everything. So make sure that everything is fair and reasonable in order for these contracts to go out to women-owned small businesses. This is for direct awards to the government. If you think that you're only going to be a subcontractor and you never want to have a direct contract with the federal government, but you need the certification for your prime that you're working with, you only need the self-certification through sam.gov. So that's a big thing, is this certification is only for direct awards, is not a requirement for subcontracting. So that falls back to the self-certification through SAM. So those are the 3 major SBA programs. Most likely this time next year, we'll add a 4th one to that, the Service Disabled Veteran Certification. Right now, that's a self-certification. There's a formal certification through the Department of Veteran Affairs. Next year, we'll start the process of working that over to the SBA. So the SBA will be taking over the Service Disabled Veteran-Owned Small Business Program. When that does happen, you'll see tons of webinars and workshops about that, what you need to know and things of that nature. But again, that is still a good year away before any full migration comes over. But just for our Service Disabled veterans to keep that in mind for future projects coming forward. How to get started? First of all, call the PTAC. I'll be perfectly honest with you, that'll make your life a lot easier. Step 1, get a DUNS number. Now, this is a slide that comes from my headquarters office. So put this phone number on there. Do not call that phone number, okay? That will give you the most headaches that you've ever seen or ever wanted to deal with. What you really want to do is use that link right here in bullet point number 2, fedgov.dnb.com/webform. That will take you to the digital version, and it's a much shorter application process than Dun & Bradstreet normally has, because this is geared just for federal contracts. I do need to note, though, in about 18 months from now, DUNS numbers will no longer be a thing. SAM unique identifiers will take over. That process will change, but as of today, this is what you need to do. Last bullet point is very important. Sole props. If your business is under your social security number, your legal business name is your name, because we do check with the IRS, and that social security number is attached to you, not directly to the business. This is what Dun & Bradstreet's website looks like. That middle box right there, it says find DUNS number. Boom, start it. and that's how you go through. But again, work with your PTAC. They'll help you through this whole process. SAM.gov. Again, this is a free website. It's funded by the federal government. You know it's free because it has the Uncle Sam top hat in the top left-hand corner. You don't see the top hat, you're on the wrong site. You look across from that, you'll see the official warning on all federal websites now. That is the US government website, 100% free. So those will be the two giveaways. And remember, sam.gov, nothing with the .com. So .gov is where you want to be for SAM. Once you're registered, now what? Do government agencies start calling you? No. You got to self-market. You have to be the proactive individual in this case. Again, federal government is the world's largest purchaser. There is not even close the amount of money the federal government spends to operate and function for needs, services, and that number has gone immensely high over the last almost 2 years now with the additional spending that the government has done for supporting businesses to reopen and stay open. Full and open competition is the way that majority of contracts are released. Basically, government posts a project. Anyone that meets the requirements can bid on the project. Very simple. We also have what are known as small business set-asides. Basically, we talked about that early on. Contracts set aside for certain industries. In this case, women-owned, disabled veterans, small disadvantaged business, hub zones. You get that picture there. Limits only those businesses that can compete on those. And then we have the sole source program. I talked about this briefly with the 8A program as a huge benefit. All of our set-aside programs do have a sole source element to them. However, outside of the 8A program, so women-owned, disabled veteran, and Hubzone, you need to be the only individual that can perform that work. Okay, so you nationally to do that. What happens is if the government feels that it is the case, they will do an intent to sole source notice on sam.gov as a posting. And on that posting, there'll be a comment period where if somebody challenges that they can do the work, then it becomes a full and open competition. If nobody challenges that, it can be a sole source award. That is not the case with 8A program. Sole sources can go to whatever the government feels is in the best interest of the government. So big difference between 8A sole source and traditional sole source contracts. Again, sole source is a great way to full and open competition. Sometimes if it's above the threshold for small businesses, it can go to large businesses. As a small business, you can compete on large contracts if you have the capabilities and qualifications. Nothing's stopping you from doing that. Other way though is large firms cannot compete on the small ones. Set-asides, again, there has to be more than 2 qualified businesses that can compete on them. And of course, sole source, we kind of just went over all that as well. How does the government buy? Micro purchases are great. Think of that as a credit card transaction between you and whoever you decide that you want to buy something from. The government does it the same way. So federal law says anything up to $10,000 can be purchased on a credit card sale. That's $10,000 per card holder per day. So if your business is a lot of small micro purchases, you can do multiple micro purchases a day, come back the next day, do some more, and really non-compete work because it is essentially a shake of a hand. Not all agencies will go up to that full $10,000 credit card limit. Some stick to the old $3,500 value. That's where they like that. So keep that in mind. Not every agency will go to that full credit card spending limit. Anything above $25,000 is required to be posted on sam.gov. So under sam.gov, you'll see all those postings above $25,000. Anything between the $10,000 and $25,000 is actually going to be posted on internal networks. So a lot of different agencies will have their own internal contracting database. Over the last probably 5 years, most of them got rid of that and they post everything above $10,000 on sam.gov, but they're not required to. So keep that in mind. Some agencies may have smaller contracts that they post on old school bulletin boards in their contracting office, or they might have an internal website designed for that internally. Then typically, most contracts are contract by negotiation. You submit a price to the government deems that you are qualified. They may ask you to revise that. They may say the government estimates are higher. Can you do any better? So it is a negotiation process for most contracts. People always ask, well, what type of contracts are there? And essentially, majority of them are firm fixed price contracts. You bid an offer, The government accepts your offer, you perform the work, you get paid that amount of money. Either you make a profit or you lose money, depending on how well you did the bidding process. But there's over 200 different ways you can actually have a different contract with the government. We don't have the time to go over all those, obviously. But what's really unique is there are many different ways the government can buy from you. One that you are seeing more and more are IDIQs, indefinite delivery, indefinite quantity contracts. Probably the last 10 years, these have really ballooned from the standpoint of the government has a need. And we know we're going to have that need for the next three years, let's say. But we don't know how much we're going to actually buy from. Okay. We know we have the need. We know we have a good idea that we'll do this, but we don't know the exact number. So it's basically you put in the quote for each project and you're on a short list that can perform an IDIQ. There is a minimum annual requirement. So if the government doesn't call you for that first year, you will receive X number of dollars that's in the contract. Some years you may do a lot of money. Some years you may do very little. So there's really no set delivery aspect of it or how much they may need. So those are different types of contracts that are out there. And, all types of contracts are identified in SAM.gov as the type of contract. And I highly recommend, if it's something other than firm fixed price, to go look it up, learn the requirements, call the PTAC, call myself. We'll be more than happy to explain those to you. Just keep in mind, there are many, many different ways the government can procure. But again, over 90% of them are firm fixed price. Marketing, again, as I mentioned before, if you see a contract on SAM.gov, it's kind of reactive. Okay, that means the government's already put the work, the thought, the process into this, and now it's ready to become bid. But a lot of times, businesses are better off if they get into the forefront. They be proactive. So, I mentioned matchmaker events and things of that nature where they bring into the government agencies. That's a great way for you to do it. However, if you're not located in that area, you may want to do work nationally. How do you go about doing that? Well, in SAM.gov, you can run reports for federal spending. You can also run those reports through usaspending.gov, usaspending.gov. You can find out based upon a geographic area. You can find out under your NICS code. If you really want to stalk your competitors and see what they're selling to the government, because you feel like you want to take advantage of that as well, you can run their names in the system to figure out who they are, who they sell to. And that could be a good starting point for you as well, based on your competitors, but also do the research to find those opportunities that your competitors not currently going after. Finding out what the government spends and how they spend, what type of the year they spend the money, is a great way for you to get ahead of the storm. If you see, for example, every April that the government releases this contract, well, maybe in January, you might want to reach out to the government, send them your capability statement, which we'll talk about in the next slide, and introduce yourself and let them know these are your products and services that you offer, knowing full well that they have a need coming up in a few months and that they're preparing those contracts right now. Is a good way for you to have that dialogue and that conversation. When you send a government agency your capability statement, you can actually request a meeting with them as well. So don't feel that you can't do that. Capability statements, purpose, who you are, what you do. Keep it simple, keep it bullet point, in my opinion. Try to keep a capability statement to a one-page item. It provides purpose of who you are, what you do, what your qualifications are. It's a great way for marketing, at least get people interested or aware of your business. Think of it like a resume for your company instead of yourself, a living document. Change it as your company changes this. Have multiple versions of it for different jobs you're going after. That is absolutely fine as well. What goes into a capability statement? Branding is actually quite big. Now, don't make this a full, all graphics and logos, because you really want to highlight what you're doing. Keep in mind, most of these contracting offices are data driven. They're analytically driven. So the more you can tell them about the company, the more you'll stand out versus pictures and logos and graphics. But make sure your company brand and how you perceive the company is great, because if we go to your website to review you, we want to see the same logo. We want to see the same feel as your capability statement to make sure that we know we're on the same page. Where are you located? What are your company data? What is your DUNS number? What's your cage code? We want to know that you're ready for government contracts the day we receive this capability statement. What have you done in the past? Okay, really is if you want to sell yourself as a resume, you're going to want that past performance that shows that you've done this work before and you're a great candidate for this position. Same thing, you're a great candidate for this contract. So keep that in mind, is you want to make sure this is tailored toward what you're going after. And then also, what separates you from your competitors? This is where you put in like a diversification aspect of it. Really what makes you stand out. This is where you can be creative and highlight what makes your company great. Of course, also you'll put in any type of social economic statuses, any of the set asides you have are always great to highlight, quite frankly, what makes your business potentially more attractive, because the first thing we care about is what can you do for us? If you pass that standard, then we look at the set asides as a way to either move you up that ladder because we may have a need, or you could fall into one of our categories that are underutilized. But first thing they always look at is, are you qualified? Then they look at the certifications. So keep that in mind, keep it tailored. I know the PTAC reviews these on a daily basis. I get them every now and then. I'll be more than happy to review them if you want to send them to me, give you some feedback of what I see on there, and kind of go from there with it. So with that said, that kind of concludes the formal part of the presentation. I'm more than happy to answer any questions you guys have for me, anything you want me to dive in on and really go over in more detail. I'm more than happy to do that.
One thing that I just wanted to see if you'd be okay with, if I could share the screen and bring up the Hubzone map, and would you be able to explain how to interpret the data that's represented on that map?
Absolutely. I'd be more than happy to do that. Yeah.
All right.
Did you want me to bring it up, or do you want to do it?
I got it all set up.
Okay, cool.
Can everybody see that?
I can. So forgive me, I am colorblind, so I'm not going to talk about in colors. Okay, so I do apologize. So if it's not white background, so if it has some sort of color to it, that means you're in a Hubzone area. All right. The best way to do it is to actually type in an address. So man, right under the Hubzone, you see the geographic coordinates.
Mhm.
If you want to type in your office for the PTAC, so as you can see, it is powered by Google. It is Google Maps, and it self-populates everything. So as you can see there on the right-hand side, you get that X mark says you're not qualified. But if you look closely though, over on the other side of the Black River, you do see the grayed in area, the shaded area. That area is a Hubzone area. So you can see very close to that either you are in or not. Okay. Man, can we just do another one real quick? We'll do my office, 224 Harrison Street. There you go. And being in downtown Syracuse, we are in a heavy area of Hubzone map. So as you can see on the right-hand side, you are qualified. You'll see the census tract data, and it kind of gives you an idea of, oops, give me 1 second here, let me move that out of the way. Can you click on the more details, Manna, next to the census tract for designation for me? Show details. Yep, there you go. So as you can see, there's the census tract, there's the county, there's the state. And if you can click on the local information for me, click show details. Okay. The reason why I wanted to click on those is because there's actually going to be a new category attached to that. So on those 2 pages, one of them will now soon, obviously it's not today, will show when that Hubzone area will expire. So remember I told you it was a 5-year locked-in map. That's how you'll know. So the first thing is you always got to make sure that your office is located in Hubzone. If you get the green box that says you're in a qualified Hubzone, great. That's step 1. Then figure out how many employees you have in the office. What is 35% of that number? And so that number, the 34%, are required to be in a Hubzone. So all you really do is you go back into that top left-hand corner, start typing in their home addresses to make sure that they meet the Hubzone status. Man, if you scroll or move up on that screen towards Oswego County a little bit more, just north of the city, so you see those lines now, okay? That is area that's been designated based upon a disaster area. So there was flooding in central New York, and if you click on that for me, just one of those lined areas anywhere up north of the lake, perfect. Okay, now you'll see when that disaster tract expires. Okay, so this is actually 2 different ones. So now you have a redesignated area from the census tract that expires in June 30th. It's also a disaster tract that expires also on June 30th of 2023. So if you live in that area, you are good through there. It just depends on, where it goes. So this is one of the pandemic redistricted areas. Not everywhere is. So what they did was they took the traditional Hubzone areas and they expanded them out a certain distance just because of data shows these individuals work in a disaster area or a normal Hubzone area. So you'll see these pockets that almost complete counties to give them a full status, but doesn't always do that. It's really just based upon, powers that be for these formulas that no one has ever been able to explain to me how they work, other than that they work. If you head east for me from Syracuse, we can go over to the Oneida area. I'll show you what tribal land looks like. Right there. So as you can see, a good portion is a different color. I think it's a blue color. This color here is area that is part of the, in this case, Oneida Nation. So all that land that's this color, you are qualified, you're in a census tract, you're in the territory of the tribal land, you're qualified as a Hubzone area. So again, the best way to do it is type in the address, see that green check mark that says you're a qualified Hubzone firm, then search for your employees. Does that answer your question, Manna?
Yeah, I remember the first time I looked at the Hubzone map, and I was looking at all these different colors and designs and dots and
Yeah,
like,
if you see a color design or dot, you're in an area. A new one that's been released starting last year are the governor designated covered areas. They're still being populated. They're not very utilized yet in most states. But the way this works is the government will do things based on census tracts. So we look at numbers. We don't look at physical things. So the governor of each state has a better idea of what areas are underutilized. Maybe there's been a large manufacturer that's gone out of business and it's high unemployment, low household income. Those are the two major driving factors for the Hubzone program. But since it's only done on a large scale every 10 years, there are areas that are definitely underutilized and could benefit from this program. This is where the governor can file paperwork to the SBA explaining why the governor feels a Hubzone area should be created in that part of the state. SBA will review it and make an eligibility determination. But if you look at this map 3 months ago, all those full counties that are covered did not exist in New York State. None of them did. So it's good to see that the map is starting to come back to where it was in 2010. Not quite there yet. But again, there is a much larger area that is Hubzone than most other things. Like I mentioned before, the two major drivers to this map has to do with household income as well as employment rate. So keep that in mind. Areas of higher unemployment typically will become Hubzone areas as well as areas of low household income. So that's why you see a lot of major cities have Hubzones in their downtown area for those reasons alone, based upon number of people that live in the county or live in that city versus how much they bring in, type of aspect of it. So that's some of the factors that determine a or Hubzone status.
Now, one follow-up question that I have concerning Hubzone. So if you file to become a Hubzone business, and say in 3 to 5 to 10 years time, when all of a sudden the area that you're in is not a Hubzone, are you grandfathered in, or does your Hubzone status stop when
Your
that?
status stops, but you are required to complete any contract you currently have with the government. So you always have to perform the work that you agreed to. You would just not be eligible for future awards under the Hubzone program because you're no longer meet the requirements of the program.
Okay. So another question popped in. If you don't have any employees but are in a Hubzone, would you qualify?
So SBA states every company has to be populated. So if you're the owner of the company, you would be the employee. So if your business is located in a Hubzone and you live in a Hubzone, you would have 100% of your employees in a Hubzone, you would qualify. If you don't have any employees, then we would not, you have to have an employee to be in operation under our small business guidelines anyway. So you do need to have that owner as the employee.
Marie, does that answer your question?
Yeah, Marie, if you want to talk about that in more detail about your corporate structure, I'll be more than happy to talk to you about that, to kind of give you an idea of exactly your scenario. But if you are on the payroll, you are owning and operating the business, you would be that employee.
Steve, do you mind if Marie like unmutes and
Yeah, that's absolutely fine.
maybe explore that a little bit?
Hi there.
Hi.
Yeah, so I'm an LLC. I'm a single member LLC, and I'm just starting out. So at the moment, I don't have any employees yet. I know that I checked my address. It's not in a hub zone. So that alone would say that I didn't qualify, but I was just curious to know if your business was located in a hub zone, but you didn't have any employees, if you would qualify.
Yeah, you would be the employee in that case.
Okay.
You would always be that employee. And when you're filling the application, you have to put down who the owner is, the company, all the information, and that's how you verify everything. So you would be that employee, even though you don't have anybody else on your staff.
Right.
Keep in mind, if you were in that scenario and you did qualify and you hired 2 more people and both those people were not in a hub zone, you'd only have 33% if you were. So you could lose that status just based upon your growth or recruitment outside of a hub zone. So keep that in mind. If you are in the hub zone, you do qualify and you do grow, you need to maintain that 35% employee.
Okay. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right. Do we have any other questions?
No, thank you though.
All right. Well, I appreciate everyone that logged in today. Steve, thank you so much for sharing all that information. Do you have contact information, Steve?
Yeah, I'll put it real quick in the chat, but it's my first name, Stephen, stephen.bar@sba.gov. We're very creative on how we do our email addresses. So if you ever forget that, just Google my name and it'll come up in our district office website. But again, stephen.bar@sba.gov. I can give you my direct line as well, so you guys can always get a hold of me, 315-471-9933. And oops, I put 0 instead of a dash. I'm sorry. There you go. So feel free to call me. That's my direct line. If you have just general questions about SBA, you can just call me and I'll either forward you to a colleague who I can help you with that. But feel free to let me know if there's anything we can do for you guys going forward. I am obligated to tell you, and I should tell you this anyway, if you've not applied for the economic industry disaster loan, you still can. You have time. You have until December 31st to apply for that. If you have not applied already, I highly recommend, if you are interested, to get it in as soon as possible. The cutoff date is December 31st to get the applications in. We will still process those after that date, but they do need to be in prior to that date. So COVID information, just updating you on that. If there are funds available to you, you do need those funds, feel free to call our office. We'll go over what options are still available. Mostly it is just the economic industry disaster loan. And again, that is closing at year end.
All right. Well, if that's all we have right now, just to let you guys know, I did put my contact information as far as email and my website in the chat. So feel free to contact me anytime. Basically, there isn't any topic that a PTAC shies away from. So please feel free to give me a call or send me an email and we'll schedule a meeting ASAP. So again, thank you everybody for attending this webinar. After I get done with the recording, I will send out the link and look forward to more webinars. And Steve brought up the matchmaker. We're doing a tri-state matchmaker. I believe it's December 6th and December 7th. But feel free to sign up for that. And we also have a how to prepare for a virtual matchmaker, November 30th. We had one earlier this week. That was a success. So please feel free to sign up. Even if you just want to sign up, attend and see what it's all about. That would be great. So have a great rest of your week. Have a great Thanksgiving and holiday season. And hopefully we'll see you guys soon.
Thank you guys.